My wife is doing everything she can to save her marriage that she destroyed by cheating on me. She cheated on me and had a child with her lover. Your Honor, my client does not wish to get divorced and is asking the court to mandate counseling. She believes the marriage is strong enough to overcome this issue with a little help. That was her lawyer speaking, her being Julie, my soon-to-be ex-wife. If I had any say in it. My lawyer stood up. Your Honor, a year-long affair with multiple men resulting in the birth of a child is hardly just an issue, especially when DNA tests confirm the child is not my client's. We see no point in prolonging this farce of a marriage any further. Counseling won't change anything. It is precisely because of the child that I am inclined to order counseling, the judge responded. A child needs a stable home to grow up in. If you think I'm going to raise that cheating woman's child, I interrupted loudly. My lawyer cringed as the judge slammed his gavel. One more word, and I will hold you in contempt of court, he shouted at me. I am ordering 1 month of counseling with 2 sessions per week. You will attend, Mr. Stedman, or face consequences. He glared at me briefly, then hit the gavel again. That's all. Julie, my soon-to-be ex-wife, had a smug look on her face as I walked into the counselor's office. I'm Dr. Sullivan, but you can call me Gerald. May I call you Brian? He smiled at me. No, you may not. You will address me as Mr. Stedman, I replied. Brian, there's no need, Julie began. And you don't speak to me at all, I snapped at her. I think we need to calm down, Dr. Sullivan said. Please, Mr. Stedman, take a seat. He gestured toward one of the 2 chairs placed side by side in front of his desk. I dragged my chair a good 6 feet away from Julie and sat down. Gerald let out a sigh. All right, then, he started. I didn't catch the rest because I took out my AirPods and started listening to music on my phone. Gerald just stared at me for a moment before turning to talk to Julie. I couldn't hear what he was saying, so I kept scrolling through my phone, listening to my music. After about 15 minutes, I noticed Julie stand up. She gave me a hard glare and stormed out of the office. I took out my AirPods. All right, doctor. Great session. See you on Thursday. I'm canceling the sessions and sending my report to the judge. Even better. And with that, I left the office. The judge was clearly displeased. Give me one reason why I shouldn't hold your client in contempt, he demanded, glaring at my lawyer. Your Honor, you ordered my client to attend the sessions, and he complied by attending the first one as per the order. It was the counselor who canceled the remaining sessions, my lawyer argued. The counselor's report clearly states that your client made no effort to participate in the session. He put on headphones and ignored them the entire time, the judge shot back. The order required his attendance, my lawyer responded. He attended. Since the counselor concluded that further sessions would be ineffective, I request that you grant the divorce as per the petition. Absolutely not, the judge replied. I am ordering 4 more weeks of counseling. Mr. Stedman will attend, and he will engage in the sessions. The office was arranged exactly the same way as before when I arrived, 2 chairs, about a foot apart, facing the doctor's desk. He sat behind it. The desk was bare except for a yellow legal pad and a photo of a woman, probably in her mid-30s, along with a child who looked about 6 years old. Mr. Stedman, the doctor said, please have a seat. Once again, I started to move the chair. Julie reached out to stop me, and I recoiled. I'm letting you both know that any physical contact will be considered an attack and met with appropriate force, I said. Julie gasped, pulling back. I resumed moving the chair and then sat down. Once again, I took out my phone. Mr. Stedman, the judge ordered you to participate in this session, the doctor reminded me. I'm aware, I said. I'm using my phone to record the session to prove my participation. My lawyer informed me that some counselors can have their own agendas. Since my soon-to-be ex-wife has been seeing you for some time, I believe you may have already formed a relationship with her that could be biased against me. And what if I don't want you to record the session? The doctor asked. Then I'll go back to court and request a different counselor, I replied. I have that option. The only reason I haven't done it yet is that it would cause even more delays. Julie, how do you feel about the session being recorded? The doctor asked her. Whatever, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Can we just get started? All right, the doctor said. What I'd like to do to begin, before we start, may I ask a question? I interrupted. Of course, he replied. You can ask questions at any time. I might ask you to hold off during certain parts of the process, but... Men in relationships, when did the ugly best friend try and get in the way? My fiancé's plus-sized friend cheated on the only man that would look at her. Now, it's ruining my engagement. I need to get this off my chest, I feel like I'm going insane. My fiancée Sarah and I have known each other for about 6 years, and we just recently got engaged last year. Our wedding is scheduled to take place in just 2 months, and I just witnessed something that is making me feel like I'm making a huge mistake. A month ago, Sarah and I were taking a rare opportunity to relax at home. She was in the kitchen making dinner while I was out back working on one of my projects. I came back into the house to get a drink, and saw Sarah talking on speakerphone. I could tell by her voice that it was her beluga friend Jessica. Jessica was an idiot, and had a disgusting attitude towards practically everything. She hadn't graduated high school, yet wanted to be with a 6'4" jacked male making $200K a year. Ridiculous, I know. When I first walked in, I didn't quite know what they were talking about, but then something caught my ear. I heard Jessica say that she was planning to leave her boyfriend, and that she had been cheating on him for over a year. I was appalled, and disgusted. Her boyfriend was one of the only men that gave her the time of day, and yet she cheated on him. Sarah, on the other hand, was super supportive. I remember a distinct "Yas queen, you go girl slay" coming from her mouth. It made me want to puke. It's hard to believe that she was acting like that when she makes Nick Avocado look skinny. Here's the worst part. Jessica was asking Sarah if she would help cover for her, since her boyfriend was coming home in an hour, and Sarah agreed. I was shocked. If she was willing to cover up for her friend's affair, what's stopping her from covering up her own affair? After a couple days, I haven't spoken to her about what I overheard. I don't think she knows I heard her conversation, but I guarantee she would have the same opinion even if I confronted her. I don't know what she sees in Jessica, besides her high blood pressure. I just feel overwhelmed. 2 weeks ago, I confronted Sarah. I told her that I thought what she was doing was totally immoral, and completely disgusting. She got really mad, and told me it was none of my business, saying that I shouldn't have been eavesdropping in the first place. Around this time, Jessica happened to be coming over to our house to visit, presumably to scheme her way out of trouble. She arrived in the middle of our fight and immediately took Sarah's side. She kept going on about how her boyfriend never made her happy, and that he was a useless male who didn't deserve anything in life. Was this ogre really serious? I got really mad that she was talking about this nice guy like this, and I flipped. He's a useless man? You didn't even graduate high school. You live off your parents' money, and you don't have a job or an education. You haven't studied a single day in your life, and the only thing you've ever memorized is the McDonald's menu. Both Jessica and my girlfriend stood there speechless, and I left. I took the car and went for a long drive. Sarah started blowing up my phone saying that I was totally out of line, and that we were through. I told her that
my husband has been pushing me to let my sister be a surrogate for our baby, but doing it the traditional way. I stood in my kitchen staring out the window, my mind a million miles away. I couldn't take the tightness in my chest and the weight of what my husband had suggested to me. My husband David and I have been trying to have a baby for years, but our last visit to the hospital provided the final nails in the coffin after telling us that it wasn't ever going to happen. I was devastated, but my husband didn't seem too upset, because he suggested we had options. I couldn't believe what he was asking of me, not only me but also my sister. When he first mentioned that we asked my sister to be a surrogate, it didn't come across as the worst idea. But when he suggested we do it the traditional way, it sent my blood running cold. A million thoughts ran through my head as I tried to make sense of what he said and wanted. Was he attracted to my sister all this time? Was he using this as a way to sleep with my sister quote-free? I was furious, and when I said this to him, he didn't see the problem. Told me his ancestors had done it for centuries. I didn't answer him at first. I didn't trust myself to speak without breaking. It was as if David, the man I'd known and loved, was suddenly a stranger. It wasn't just the idea of surrogacy that upset me. It was the way he spoke about it like it was part of some long-forgotten tradition. He wasn't talking about clinics or doctors. He wanted Emily to conceive with him naturally. I couldn't wrap my head around it. My sister, with my husband, to give us the child I couldn't have? The thought made me sick. David had been calm, almost too calm when he explained it. He said it was the family's way, something his ancestors had always done to keep the bloodline strong. The more he talked, the more I felt like I didn't even know him anymore. It wasn't just old-fashioned, it was disturbing. I tried to talk to Emily, hoping she'd be as horrified as I was. At first, she thought it was a joke. But when I told her how serious David was, her face changed. She admitted that he'd already spoken to her about it. She had hoped he'd drop the idea if I wasn't on board. Now, we both knew it wasn't going away. Anger burned in me. How could David even suggest this? The thought of him with Emily was unbearable, but there was something else, too, something darker lurking underneath his words. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his plan than just having a child. I started digging. I went through his things, looking for anything that might explain what was going on. That's when I found the old family records. At first, it seemed like harmless genealogy, but the deeper I looked, the stranger it got. There were symbols I didn't recognize, notes about bloodlines and fertility, and then I found something that chilled me to the bone. Mentions of rituals, sacrifices, and offerings to some kind of ancient god. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. This wasn't about having a child. David wasn't just trying to keep the family line going, he was planning something far darker. My sister wasn't meant to just carry our baby. She was supposed to be a sacrifice, an offering to this old god his family had worshipped for generations. I felt sick. My mind raced as I pieced it all together. David had been planning this for years. His calm demeanor, and the talk of tradition, it was all a cover for something far more sinister. I realized I wasn't just fighting to stop an uncomfortable surrogacy arrangement. I was fighting for my sister's life. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He just looked at me with that same eerie calm, saying it was the only way to secure the family's future. Emily had to be the one. She was pure, perfect for the ritual. He spoke like it was already decided, like I had no say in the matter. The desperation in me turned to panic, a gnawing fear that was eating away at me. I had to protect Emily, but I wasn't sure how obsessed my husband was about all this and the lengths he could go to make it happen. Time was running out, and I knew that if I didn't stop him, I'd lose Emily. And if that happened, the consequences would be far worse than anything I could have imagined. The night of the ritual came. David had prepared everything, symbols drawn on the floor, candles flickering in strange, unnatural patterns. Emily stood off to the side, trembling, terrified of what was about to happen. I was shaking too, but not out of fear. I was ready. David had no idea how much I had learned, how far I'd gone to turn this around. He thought I was beaten, that I had accepted his plan. He had no idea that while he was busy obsessing over his precious old ways, I had been finding something older, something stronger. As David began the chant, my heart pounded in my chest, but I stayed silent, watching him call on forces he didn't fully understand. He moved toward Emily, ready to start the final part of the ritual, but that's when I made my move. I spoke words he wasn't expecting, words I'd learned from the darkest parts of those ancient texts. They weren't meant for me to say, but I had learned to twist the ritual, bend it to my own will. I had spent weeks preparing for this moment, memorizing everything I needed to make sure that he would be the one who paid the price. David froze as the energy in the room shifted. The symbols on the floor flickered, changing shape, twisting into something unfamiliar even to him. His confidence wavered, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He tried to finish the chant, but the words fell flat. "You don't understand what you're doing," he tried to shout. His control over the ritual was slipping. The power he'd summoned didn't care for tradition or purity. It was only looking for one thing, the perfect vessel. David gasped. His face twisted in shock. The ritual had shifted, and he was no longer the master of it. He tried to stand, but his body convulsed again, and he fell to his knees. His hands pressed against his belly as something inside him began to swell, pushing outward. The horrifying realization dawned on him. The life he had intended for my sister was now growing inside him. I watched as his belly expanded, stretching his skin tight. The weight of it grew, heavy and undeniable. He looked up at me, his face pale, desperate for a way out, but there was none. The spell had made its choice. David, the man so obsessed with controlling his bloodline, was now the one carrying it. The look of terror on his face was all I needed to know. He understood, and there was no escaping it. He was pregnant. 9 months later, David was a shadow of the man he used to be. His once proud posture had crumbled under the weight of his massive, swollen belly, his skin stretched tight and marked with deep stretch marks. His feet were constantly swollen, and his face, once stern, was now puffy and exhausted from sleepless nights of cramps, back pain, and the relentless discomfort of carrying life inside him. He had gone through every stage of pregnancy, morning sickness that left him heaving, strange cravings, and the unpredictable mood swings that left him either weeping or raging at the smallest things. His body ached in ways he never imagined, his back hunched as he waddled through the house, barely able to move with a burden of his own making. The reality of pregnancy had shattered any last trace of his arrogance, leaving him humbled and broken. My house is empty, but my friend who is deaf and blind insists someone is here. They say seeing is believing, but if I'd followed that advice, I'd be dead now. It was a deaf-blind friend who first told me there was someone in the house with me. I scoffed. I didn't believe him. I looked out across the wide-open empty living room. I looked upstairs in the den and spare bedroom and out at the patio and in the kitchen. It was just the two of us. But my friend, Will, insisted. While he was sitting on the base of the stairs, tracing his fingers along the ornate sculpted banister, I went upstairs to grab something from the den. He felt another set of footsteps on the stairs after mine, following me up. He told me afterward in sign language when we sat down at the table for tea. Then he asked me who else was here. I chuckled, my fingers tickling his leg in laughter, and told him he must have imagined it, but he claimed he could smell them. When I asked him to describe the smell, he said it smelled bad, a sort of garbage smell, someone who needed a bath or hung out in the trash. Maybe my trash needed to go out, I said, and insisted it was just us. Are you sure? He and I were supposed to be working on the script for a game we were developing together, but he interrupted my suggestions to exclaim, "There. Do you smell it?" I didn't smell a thing, nor did I see anyone in the living room with us. Does your nose actually work, or is it just a decoration on your face? Will burst, exasperated. When I dropped him off back at his apartment later after we'd finished our work together, as he was getting out of the car, he warned me again that I definitely have another person hiding somewhere in my home. His hands described the field to me, 2 fingers of his right hand walking up my arm toward my shoulder, 2 fingers of his left following behind, softer. Then he tapped his hand along my arm, showing me the feel of the vibration, first heavier, more solid, my steps, and then lighter, but still palpable. The second set of steps following mine and vibrating the wooden stairs. I patted his arm in affirmation and told him I'd search the house when I got home. Be careful, he said, his signing emphatically slow, and gave my arm a final squeeze before tapping his way to the front of his building with his white cane. As soon as I got home, I searched the house. But I couldn't imagine where an intruder might conceal themselves. It was a cozy house, 2 levels with small square footage. The rent was suspiciously low, but I chalked it up to the lack of AC, creaky pipes, and age of the place. I looked under the sink, in the closets, in the cupboards, in the spare bedroom. I even bought a camera and set it up, but all I captured overnight was myself sleepwalking. I vaguely remembered waking on the staircase and returning to bed. Other than that, the motion capture didn't turn on. According to the video, I was alone in my house. Still, the next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. It said that if you lose one sense, your others become sharper to compensate. But what if the reverse is also true? Was my reliance on my eyes causing my brain to shut out my other senses? What if I tried closing my eyes? It seemed silly. Even so, on a whim, that evening I went around the house wearing a blindfold. I was feeling my way through the kitchen, filling a glass with water from the sink when I felt, the presence of someone. I couldn't pinpoint why. I just had the sense of not being alone. The hairs on my neck rose. And suddenly I was absolutely certain someone was coming up behind me. I snatched off my blindfold. Just me. Still, the feeling lingered for a moment, those goosebumps persisting on my arms. I put the blindfold back on and puttered around in the kitchen for a while. It was then I noticed the smell. Like rotten meat, like unwashed flesh, spoiled and awful, and it was so faint, just wafting occasionally. The hairs on the nape of my neck stood up. I went upstairs, trying to follow the smell, but I lost it almost immediately when I went into my den. I came back downstairs, my fingers lightly tracing the wall. Thud, thud, thud. I stopped, because I felt footsteps behind me, felt the soft reverberation on the wooden staircase, just a beat after my own. It was just like Will had described to me. Someone was here, right behind me. I felt cold breath on my ear. I tore off the blindfold and whirled around. The staircase was empty. That night, as I lay in bed, I had trouble drifting to sleep. I was afraid of what might happen overnight. And sure enough, I woke up on the stairs, sleepwalking. But instead of returning to bed, I tried to keep myself in that dreamy state and I held my eyes closed. My arm was cold. It took me a moment to realize that someone was holding my hand, a touch of icy fingers drawing me forward, those dead fingers leading me up the stairs. Every instinct told me to tear my hand away and run, but I let the dead hand guide me up until I was on the landing. The rotten smell made my eyes water as the door to the spare bedroom opened. An overwhelming sense of dread made it hard to breathe as the hand guided me across the room. Then my fingers touched the cool handle to the balcony door and pushed the door open. Fresh air gusting around me, I yanked back, terror shooting through me, and rushed for the light switch. I was alone again. I'm now looking for a new place to live. Will is right. I'm not alone, and my life is in danger every night I stay here. I've got to get out as soon as I can, but my budget is tight, and housing is scarce in this area. So until I find a place, I've installed a bolt on the balcony doors and moved a heavy bookcase in front of them, and I've locked that spare bedroom. You see, I did some research and found out that the tenant who lived here before me died by hanging himself from the balcony of the upstairs bedroom. Before him, there was an old woman who lived here with her daughter, and the daughter was also found hanging. In fact, I don't know how many people before me have died here, seemingly by taking their own lives. The house is not reported to be haunted, because no one has ever seen a ghost here, but every day, I feel someone in the house with me, their footsteps treading just behind mine, and every night, those dead fingers take my hand and try to lead me out to the balcony. I know what happens when you die. I was 4 when I first saw it. I lived in a fairly safe and comfortable neighborhood. We never wanted for anything and I was an only child. I had 2 loving parents. By all accounts, there was no real inciting incident. No trauma, no fear, no nothing that would make me hallucinate. I was by all accounts a gifted child who lived with great, loving parents in a large house. I remember I had come home from school. I had gotten a snack from the pantry and I was taking over the living room to watch Power Rangers as was my after-school tradition. As I walked into the living room, I looked out into the backyard. At the time, my little brain could only register a furry lump. A squirrel. It hadn't been torn apart or killed by anything, just died of old age. I knew death was a thing, but I had never seen it in real life up to this point. This was the first time it occurred. From the corpse of the squirrel, I saw what looked like stringy teethers break loose from its body. Ethereal blue things, barely thicker than twine, pulling apart as I saw a ghostly, blue version of the squirrel emerge from its body. It regarded me for a moment as I watched it. Could it see me? Did the dead watch us? Then I saw it immediately scamper off. My family wasn't religious. I wasn't religious. We were Christian, sure, but we didn't exactly visit church every Sunday, nor did we avoid specific vices or espout virtues. Still, we believed in the basics. When you die, you go to heaven if you're a good person. Hell if you're a bad person, but at the time I called it heck. Seeing this, well, I didn't know what to do. How was a 4-year-old supposed to handle this? Instead of watching TV, I went to my mom in the office. She was busy on a computer, having a serious talk with someone I didn't know. And are you sure it's nothing serious? If you, I'll have to call you back. We'll pick this up soon. Sure. Goodbye. She'd hang up the phone, turning in her chair to look at me. Yes, Danny? Mom, there's a squirrel in the backyard. I'm sure there is, honey. Is that all you wanted to say? Mom, I think it died. Her face twisted in a look of revulsion. All right, dear. Let me get Daddy to take care of it. She left the office. I could hear her calling Jacob. Jacob. Baby, need you to do something for me. She didn't get it. I mean, how could she? What was there to understand? And I didn't exactly blurt out that I saw ghosts. I was 4. What was I supposed to say? So I hid it. I locked it away in my brain and it was my little secret. In a way, it gave me catharsis. I wasn't having existential dread at the age of 4, but the unknown still scared me. To know that your soul lives on, well, it gave me some measure of peace even as a child. My parents weren't exactly going to think I was telling the truth either, so why bring it up? Kid me knew grown-ups couldn't see stuff kids could, but it was alright. There was no rule book, but I picked up some things as I watched. Some minor rules. Creatures had to be big enough. A mouse seemed to be the cutoff. I didn't see ants or gnats appear. From death, it took about 40 seconds for something to break free. I didn't know what would happen if you were brought back after legal death, but I assumed your soul was dragged back to you. You didn't get to fly, but you could walk through walls like a ghost most of the time. That was about all I had gathered for about a few years. Things were good for those 2 years. I had my secret nobody else knew and it gave me peace. I knew one of the great unknowns of humanity. Me, a kid. I felt like a genius. Then the greater truth was revealed. It was December 8th, at about 6:15 in the morning on a Sunday, that things went to hell. I had been dreaming peacefully when the scream woke me up. I bolted upright, almost too afraid to speak. My room was on the 2nd floor of the house and my parents were down the hallway. If I screamed, I'd wake them up. I had nightmares before. Was that all it was? Just a bad dream and a sudden scream? When you're a child, your mind tricks you to justify things. It couldn't trick my eyes, however. Across the street from us was Jeffrey Raymond's. Mr. Raymond's was an old guy, not quite senile, but his best years were behind him. He was a kind man. I loved going to his house when we went trick-or-treating. He liked to boast he gave out full-sized candy bars. That made him my favorite neighbor. I got out of my bed to see where the scream had come from, as it had been outside my window and across the street. Was Mr. Raymond's in danger? I didn't know, but I had to look. Mr. Raymond's was entirely blue, just as I had seen other dead things before, but he wasn't acting like himself. He was panicked. He was in his pajamas. Howling, screaming, running through walls. He had died, probably from old age, but this wasn't like the squirrels or rabbits I saw. No, he was screeching, sprinting, sometimes going through walls, sometimes hitting them. It's like his body wasn't solid enough. It scared me. I ran down the hall, heavy steps ignoring how early it was, as I'd enter my parents' room. I went to my dad's side of the bed. Dad, I'd say Dad. Wake up, can you wake up? He'd groggily groan, leaning over to look at the alarm clock. Hey bud, it's really early. You okay? Nightmare? He'd ask, sitting up from the bed. Mom wouldn't wake up, heavily sleeping. I think something bad happened to Mr. Raymond's. Why so, buddy? Just a bad feeling. Nightmare? No, can you go check on him? Mr. Raymond might be sleeping. You know he's an old guy, Dad told me. Dad, please, can you, please? His eyes said I'm not going to sleep until I do this, am I? But his face said anything for you, sport. He'd push himself up, getting his slippers on. Alright, I'll go check on him. As Dad went down the stairs, I returned to my room. I'd watch from the second-story window, hearing him open and close the door. Dad waved at a passing jogger, exchanging a quick discussion before he'd walk across the road. All the while, Mr. Raymond's spirit continued to howl, flail, scream. I don't think it knew where it was or what was going on. Dad knocked on the door. Silence. Dad looked concerned for a moment. He knocked again. Silence. Now I think he knew something was wrong. He'd do a quick jog back across to our house, where I heard him in the kitchen grabbing the phone and talking to someone. I hoped to see Mr. Raymond's spirit calm down, but he'd just keep screaming, keep running throughout his rooms and through his walls. There's a danger, in nature, when an animal gets wounded. It calls for help. Sometimes, a kind human finds it and pulls it out of a trap. Other times, a fellow member of the species finds it and saves it. But most often, those cries attract a predator. And in this case, Mr. Raymond's spirit was a siren. I stayed glued to the window, watching the scene, my eyes switching between the actions in the physical world as an ambulance pulled up in spiritual world, Mr. Raymond's ghost tirelessly howling and scrambling around. I wasn't sure how to help him, so I was going to decide to go to bed. That's when I saw it. All this time, I had only seen blue spirits. Human, animal or otherwise. They'd fluctuate in tone and opacity, sure, but always blue. This was the first time I ever saw a red spirit. It scrambled on all fours, long and lanky. Its arms were too long, its legs not ending in feet but in two sharp talons, one in the front, one in the back. I covered my mouth, watching what I think was its head bob. It had no eyes, a sort of heavy shell covering the top half of its head. It was beelining to the screaming Mr. Raymond. Paramedics were having a polite conversation as it barged through them, phasing like a ghost. One paramedic turned around, as if someone had tapped his shoulder, but he looked back to his friend. I saw a primal terror in Mr. Raymond's eyes. He knew this was a predator. He screamed, howling less like a man and more like an animal, before he'd charge into the house. The thing followed soon after. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. Panicked screams, guttural cries. And then silence. Eerily quiet. Maybe Mr. Raymond had got away? Maybe he went somewhere further into the afterlife. A child struggled to comprehend non-existence and the universe was now asking a child to comprehend what came even further after. Nausea was going to overtake me before my dad went in my room, making me turn away from the window. Hey, kiddo. Hey. Mr. Raymond's, listen, yeah. He seemed unsure of how to broach the subject, doubly so considering I somehow knew Mr. Raymond had died. It's okay, Dad, I whispered. I thought it was a nightmare, but... Bad dreams, I know. Hey, listen. Do you want some breakfast? Whatever you want? No, I'm not really hungry right now. But, thanks, Dad. I love you lots. Love you too, buddy. Dad closed the door, probably wanting to give me some peace while I processed this. There were things to process, to be sure, but I didn't want to speak on it. I turned back to the window, watching to see if the red thing had gone. It hadn't. The red thing now stood in the middle of the street, hands twitching. Hands that ended in knives, not fingers. And it was staring at me without eyes. I covered my mouth in horror. Hid logic said that safety from monsters was always under the blanket. That made sense to me, scrambling under it as I got away from the window. Maybe it hadn't noticed. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Did it want to get me next? Did it want to kill me? The blanket covered me, head to my knees as I hid. I didn't need to see it, I could hear it. The clicking and clacking of its knife fingers on the walls. The red glow as it moved inside my room. I was trapped under my blanket, quivering. And as it came into my room, it just sat there, knees to its chest, right across from me. Time seemed to slow. Did I sit under the blanket for a minute? 20? 2 hours? I don't know. But it wouldn't leave, sitting there, watching me. I felt bile well in my throat. I wanted to throw up from panic and dread. Experimentally, and against the child's code of what kept you safe, I removed the blanket. The thing was easily 7 feet tall, maybe more, but its arm length had to be about 8 or more. The shell on its head was more of a carapace, fused to the top of its head like a helmet. Leathery, red skin, taut and tight, like leather stretched over muscle. The worst was the mouth. It had no lips, no jaws, no normal teeth. What instead I saw was a slowly rotating blender of a hole, sharp and jagged. It was uncanny to feel a stare with no eyes upon you. We locked gazes, or at least I think we did, as I trembled in bed. I think I had peed myself, quivering, watching it observe me. It looked back, seemingly unaware of the horror I was in. We were in a stalemate until one long, bony knife finger uncurled. I watched that knife etch into the wall of my room, not damaging the physical space but doubtlessly marking my room in the spirit world. It read, "Can you see me?" I looked at the wall, then to it, then to the wall. I nodded. Its razor maw rotated, sharp and jagged teeth spinning. Can you hear me? It asked. Its voice, guttural, like it came from a drain pipe clogged with muck. I nodded. Of all the words to come out of its mouth, I didn't expect what it said next. Sorry. I didn't want to scare you. Sorry? A monster, made of knives and jagged pieces, was apologizing for scaring me. Can you hear me? I asked back. Yes. We stared at each other for an uncomfortable amount of time. How did you know I could see you? Your eyes. They're like a lighthouse. When you looked at me, I thought I was in a spotlight. Did you hurt him? I asked bluntly. Did you hurt Mr. Raymonds? Was that his name? It asked. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Things are different when you cross over. But that doesn't make it right, I'd argue. It looked at me, seeming to finally parse that I was a child, before it had tilted its head. You will understand in time. What's your name? I shouldn't talk to strangers. I don't want to be a stranger. You're the only voice I've heard since crossing over. It paused, as if trying to figure out how to communicate with a child. Then what's your name? Strangers don't give out their names. I don't have a name, it'd respond. I looked at him. It occurred to me, in some childish capacity, that not having a name was bad. I looked him over, quivering, ignoring the panic. He might look scary, but he was being too nice. Too polite. Just because someone looked horrible didn't mean they couldn't be good. Rocky, I'd say. Your name is Rocky. Why? It asked, tilting its head. Rocky's the Red Ranger. You're red. So you're Rocky. What's the Red Ranger? I stared at him, realizing he probably didn't know much of anything. As an adult, looking back, I realize how idiotic it all is. The juvenile desire to help. Ignoring my own safety because I felt I was special. Nothing bad ever happened to special people, spoke the childlike mind. In fact, you can help him. And he won't hurt other people. Evil was a choice and maybe, just maybe, I could make him something good. Rocky, do you want to be my friend? I asked, oblivious in my youth to how stupid this was, only focused on how I could help him. But you have to promise that you'll be good. I would like that very much. Rocky would make no promise. Only that he would like that.
My husband badmouthed me to his ex behind my back, so I pretended to be the perfect wife for months, then abandoned him in the middle of the night and ruined his life. I vividly remember the day I discovered that my husband Josh was texting his ex. My heart dropped and horror washed over me as I realized he wasn't just cheating, he was doing something a lot worse. He was badmouthing me to the extreme to Rachel, saying how terrible I am in bed, how piggish I am, and even disclosing my past trauma to her. In response, she laughed and insulted me too, the two of them non-stop talking about how fat, unattractive, and awful I am at everything. I burst into tears reading these texts dating back months, and just as I was putting his phone down, Josh came out of the shower. I quickly ran off to the bathroom, wiping my tears and spending some time in the toilet trying to compose myself. When I came out of the bathroom, I saw him on his phone laughing, presumably texting her. I wanted to scream and shout at him and call him a filthy liar, a disgusting, pathetic excuse for a man, but I resisted the urge to do so. The days that followed were some of the hardest I had ever endured. Every time Josh touched me, I had to fight the urge to recoil. His hands, which once brought me comfort, now felt like a betrayal. Each time we were intimate, I let my mind wander elsewhere, and focused on anything but him, because if I did, I'd instantly get nauseous knowing he was probably going to text Rachel directly, after stating just how awful the intimacy was. No wonder he went into the bathroom with his phone right after every single time. I spent days faking a smile every time I saw him. I continued doing the household chores as if nothing had happened. I made his favorite meals, kept the house spotless, and even surprised him with small gifts. All while my heart was breaking because I knew that he was probably laughing about everything I did to his ex. There was a method to my madness, however, because this was my first step in totally breaking him. A few days in, I had concocted a plan to totally destroy him, and for stage 1 of this plan, I needed to act like the perfect wife. What really sickened me about the entire ordeal, however, was that Josh acted as if everything was perfect. Maybe even better than perfect. I couldn't believe that he was affectionate, considerate, all while mocking me to Rachel. During the day, he would compliment my cooking, thank me for keeping the house clean, and even bring me flowers from time to time. He'd cuddle me and hug me, tell me he is the luckiest man alive to have me, and that he wouldn't ever trade me for the world. But then when alone, he'd text Rachel about how ugly I am. Late at night, when Josh was asleep, I would often unlock his phone and screenshot their conversations. Rachel loved the attention she was getting from Josh. She would eagerly jump at the opportunity to say Josh deserves so much better, and that she would never treat her husband like that. There were whole threads of messages from her attacking everything about my looks and my insecurities, with her saying she would be able to run a household and still manage to take care of herself and would never develop such nasty cellulite. She constantly tried to position herself as the better option, and I had it all documented in my phone. It hurt to see all the negative comments on me, especially with my husband indulging in it too. And then it happened. One night when I unlocked his phone, I saw that my husband had stooped to a new level, one so low that I couldn't even fathom it was possible. He sent her an unclothed pic of me while I was sleeping. The two of them laughed their butts off about it, editing the picture, zooming in on every one of my insecurities and insulting my body. Rachel stated that she would never let herself look like a seal, while laughing at me, and Josh chimed in calling me a cow. I almost lost it. This event almost made me forget my entire plan, wake him up and roar at him, but I managed to keep my composure and stick to the plan. However, what they did had left me with irreversible damage. I would constantly look in the mirror and hear their comments running through my head. At night, After documenting another batch of cruel messages, I would sit alone, tears streaming down my face as I wondered how long I could keep this up. I tried to not let it affect my self-esteem, and I reminded myself why I was doing this. I knew if I was going to get away from Josh, I knew I'd have to stay focused. While I was suffering on the inside, I continued to play the perfect wife role. After long, tiring days at work, I would come home and cook his favorite dinners, no matter how exhausted I felt. The house was spotless. I showered him with affection and initiated almost every night. He absolutely loved it, and my plan was working to perfection. As the weeks progressed, I saw the messages he had between him and Rachel do a 180. She would try to throw a jab at me and sarcastically ask, "Is your wife still treating you like the king you are?" And Josh would reply to her telling her yes. As time went on in his messages to her, he would brag about me and say that I am actually doing an amazing job at everything, that I have actually managed to lose weight, and am looking attractive now, and that yes indeed, I am still treating him like a king. He would even send her pictures of the food that I would cook for him. Rachel did not like that. She would try to mask her jealousy and insecurity with backhanded compliments like, "She's surprisingly good at cooking for someone who doesn't have much else going for her," or, "You definitely have to give her credit for trying so hard," even though the results weren't always great. Josh would participate in the ridicule beforehand, but not anymore. Even when Rachel tried to shade me, asking Josh if he thought my behavior was genuine, he defended me. "I don't know what changed," he wrote, "but I'm not complaining. She's been incredible lately." Each time I read those words, I felt a mix of joy and sadness. Joy because my plan was succeeding, and sadness because the man I once loved was now a stranger to me. He told her that I had been trying very hard lately, and had to give me credit for that at least. And Rachel would question why he was making excuses for me when he was just dogging me out not even a month ago.
My 3-month-old daughter is putting creeps away in bars. My almost 3-month-old daughter has been subpoenaed to testify in a criminal case. Last Thursday, a process server came to our house and served a subpoena for a criminal case on my daughter, who was born on April 15, 2015. I called the number on it to explain how it must be a mistake because my daughter is not even 3 months old yet, but I was told there was no mistake and my daughter is required to appear as a witness to testify on the date shown on the subpoena. I went in person with my daughter to the DA's office and was told the same thing. My husband and I thought this might be a case of identity theft. She doesn't have a social security number yet because she was born at 29 weeks, spent 11 weeks in the NICU and has only been home from the hospital for 7 days, so we haven't gotten around to it yet. We checked anyway just in case, and one has not been created for her or issued to her. Nothing with her credit either. We called the police about it possibly being identity theft and they are looking into it, but so far there is nothing, and they also told us the subpoena is legitimate. So we are very confused. My daughter has a rare and uncommon first, middle and last name, so it is very doubtful that there is someone else with her exact name. When I called the number on the subpoena and went to the DA's office, I was told both times that if she doesn't show up for court, a warrant will be issued for her arrest. Would the police actually arrest a baby for not showing up in court? Or would my husband and I as her parents be arrested instead? Does anyone have an explanation for what is happening here or any advice as to what we can do to solve this? I overheard my parents talking about how well their life would have been without me, and I'm heartbroken. I am currently 19 and I made plans to move out of my parents' house next year to be independent. Not only because of this situation. They never made a secret out of the fact that I was an accident and that they never treated me as usual parents would treat their children. That's what I figured years ago, despite them claiming they love me. Our house has 2 floors. My parents are living on the ground floor and I live in the upper floor. I told them I was going to sleep, but arriving in my bedroom I realized I forgot my phone downstairs. On my way to get it I heard them talking about me. Apparently my dad was going through a magazine pointing at luxury stuff that he claimed they weren't able to afford because of the money they had to pay each month for me. Food, bills, fuel, basic necessities. To which my mom replied that she sometimes wishes she had never given birth to me. From 0 to 100 within 2 minutes. One wonders what they have already said that I have not heard. The only way to top this is my dad telling her that their life will be perfect again as soon as I move out next year because this financial burden will no longer be a problem for them. This is something you definitely don't want to hear from your own parents. And I think I'll grant them their wish earlier and move out as fast as I can. But I will remind them that they have to look for someone who takes care of them when they retire, because I will delete them out of my mind once my feet are leaving their house for the last time. They probably wouldn't accept help from their financial burden either, right? This might come off aggressive, but can you blame me? I am angry and hurt. They don't love me. They never did, and then had the audacity to lie to me for years that they did. Both of them can go to hell. Update. My gorgeous boss passed out drunk after a night out. I took her to my apartment and put her in my bed. The next day, she woke up and glared at me sleeping on the couch. Panicking, she asked. Part 2. Clever words on the fly. Hey, maybe she broke up with her boyfriend, someone speculated after Jessica had left. Such speculation arose without anyone in particular starting it. I'd never seen her like that since I joined the company. Remembering how happy she was talking about her boyfriend, it kind of made sense. It was painful to watch her so down, but I felt guilty for even thinking that now might be my chance. The gathering ended awkwardly, and everyone just dispersed. I also made my way home, and just as I was approaching my apartment building, I stumbled upon a shocking scene at the trash dumping area. Jessica was slumped over the garbage, completely drunk. Jessica, what are you doing here? Are you okay? I called out to her, but she could barely open her heavy eyelids. She was in no state to be left alone. After tapping her shoulder and calling her several times, she finally responded, "Just let me sleep a bit more." The name Henry stabbed me like a knife. I thought, probably her boyfriend. The throbbing pain in my chest made me realize I still had feelings for her. Up close, Jessica looked truly beautiful, even her flushed cheeks were adorable. But soon, her face paled, and she seemed nauseous. I ended up carrying her over my shoulder to my room. What's going on here? The next morning, suffering from a hangover or maybe just a headache, she pressed her temples but managed to get out of bed, glaring at me as I lay on the couch. She was upset to find herself wearing a men's tracksuit instead of her attire from the night before. I calmed down Jessica, who was starting to panic, and explained what happened last night. I couldn't just leave her in that state, so I brought her to my room. Jessica had vomited at my apartment's entrance, and her suit got dirty, so I changed her clothes while trying my best not to look. I wiped the suit with a damp towel, but it might be better to send it for cleaning. Oh, and just so you know, those sweatpants are clean. Hearing the circumstances, Jessica hurriedly apologized. I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience I've caused you, Mark. Thank you so much for looking out for me, she said apologetically. With her hair in a mess and her makeup smeared, she looked far from her usual perfect self at the office, but somehow, she was adorable. After expressing her apologies and gratitude, she looked around my small studio apartment with a kitchen. Seeing the overflowing garbage bags of takeaway fast food, she sighed. As I thought, you really haven't been eating properly. As an apology for the inconvenience I've caused, I'll make you a meal today. I was concerned about her condition and tried to decline, but she wouldn't hear of it. The meal she quickly whipped up with whatever was in the fridge was incredibly delicious. Seeing how much I enjoyed her cooking seemed to please her. If you're that happy, I'll cook for you again, she said happily. However, perhaps because she had been out in the cold for some time last night, she started showing symptoms of a cold. The headache she had when she woke up might have been partly due to the hangover, but then she gradually started to feel chills. Fortunately, it's the weekend. It's a bit cramped here, but would you like to stay a little longer, just until you feel better? I offered. I couldn't just send her back in her condition. I owe you big time for all the trouble I'm putting you through. Thank you so much for offering, she said apologetically, but she accepted my offer. I went to the supermarket to pick up some essentials and vitamin drinks for her. By the next day, she had recovered. I feel like I've had a good rest for the first time in a while, thanks to you, Mark, she smiled warmly before leaving my apartment. The next day at work, in an empty break room, Jessica approached me. I owe you a lot for all the help you've given me, so I want to thank you. What would you like? She asked, flashing her usual perfect smile. If it's not too much trouble, I'd like to have your cooking again, I replied. Her eyes lit up, and there was a huge smile plastered on her face. Of course, I'd be happy to, she said. From then on, she would come over on weekends to cook. Your place is surprisingly comfy, she would say. She even stayed over sometimes, yet there was no. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 3. Teachers, what's the best smartass response from a student you've heard? I teach a 6th grade English class and one year I had this really shy kid and this stereotypical mean girl in the same class. This girl would always try and have all the attention on her, blurting out crap all the time like why do you give us so much homework and you're probably my second least favorite teacher. That one stuck with me. She would also try and have all the boys' attention on her by being overly flirtatious and often making of other girls and this really shy kid to try and get laughs from the boys. One day when we were working in a group poster project, I had paired up this girl with the shy boy and 2 other guys, which looking back wasn't the best idea, but I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. As the class period goes on, I could tell that the shy boy was doing most of the work on the project and the mean girl was just talking to the other boys. I was going around table by table to check in on the groups. When I came to their group, I asked them how they were doing and they all said good, so I pointed out how the shy boy was doing most of the work in the group. The mean girl snarkily replies that he's hogging all of the work and not letting them do any. I knew this wasn't true, but I just responded by offering that the shy kid doesn't do any more work on the project and the rest of them finish it up. It was almost done anyways. To which the mean girl replies, no, just let the shy kid finish it. He's a nerd, he likes doing it anyways. The other boys could have chuckled and I saw she was proud of herself, so I said, be nice to him. He might be your boss someday, you never know. And without missing a beat he goes, no thanks, I don't want to be a pimp when I grow up. My female coworker was pushing my boundaries by getting all touchy with me and calling me her work husband. So I called her my work sister because I have a wife of my own, and now she's trying to push her way into my pants. I, 34M, work in a small office and we have about 30 people working here. Mary, 35F, is one of my coworkers. We have been working together for 6 years now. We have 6 people in our department, and we have to frequently travel across the state as our work involves overseeing government projects. We always travel in a group of 2. Although my travel partner changes based on the project, Mary and I are generally put on similar projects and enjoy each other's company. My wife also likes Mary. Overall, we have a very healthy work relationship. On to the incident. Yesterday, we had a happy hour in our office, and we were all drinking after work hours and chatting. It was a group of around 10 people that stayed back. Mary was blabbering about how we both have been traveling together so much in the last year. She was roasting me for my habits while traveling, like always forgetting stuff in my hotel room, being sweaty and stinky when I join her for breakfast in mornings, because I go to the hotel gym. Everyone was laughing and she was making it sound how unbearable I was to tag along, all in good fun. I also told some funny and sweet stories about her and agreed with her, saying that I can be difficult to be with sometimes. Mary came to me and hugged me tightly and told me that she loves me, and I am her work husband. It was all innocent on surface, but she might have been a bit drunk and just didn't let go of her tight hug. Also, I hate that phrase, as I do have a wife that I promise to be with forever, and not just in non-working hours. After a few seconds, I started becoming uncomfortable and also saw a few people staring at us. So, to defuse the situation, I took her hands off my shoulder and told her, She was my work sister and that is why I loved to annoy her so much. That seemed to have upset Mary and she left and went back to her desk and was sobbing silently. I tried to apologize to her, but she told me how embarrassing the whole situation was. She said that she just meant work husband in platonic way, but me calling her work sister made her sound like a creep in front of the whole office. She was also angry that I aggressively removed her hands from my shoulders while hugging. I tried to reason with her that I do not like the work husband phrase and also people gave dirty looks when she said it. So, I was just trying to make sure people do not take her words in the wrong way. We talked for a few minutes afterwards and Mary calmed down. She hugged me again and left. I felt really guilty afterwards because I can see Mary's point. I made her sound like a creep by implying that she meant something inappropriate when she called me her work husband. However, I was a bit uncomfortable in that situation and just did not want people to call us that, or assume something wrong. Am I the odd for calling Mary my work sister? I am sitting in my office writing this and a bit worried that I embarrassed Mary in front of everyone. Update 1. Thanks everyone for your comments and giving me confidence that I did not do anything wrong or inappropriate. As I was sitting in office the next day, I knew things would be a bit awkward between Mary and me. Mary ignored me the whole morning. Initially, I was planning to go and apologize to her, but after the post, I decided that I do not need to do that as I should be the one who is offended. Everyone in the office could see that we were acting weird, and I heard some people gossiping about us. One of the ladies also came to me and asked me if I want to talk about Mary and me. Around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I was sitting in my office working. Mary came into my office and closed the door behind her. She was angry at me and started saying that I need to stop being a jerk and stop ignoring her. I told her to sit and to talk about what is going on. She told me that she feels humiliated, and everyone has been starting at her the whole morning because of what I did. I also stood my ground and told her that I was okay with her making fun of me but calling me her work husband and hugging me in front of everyone for a long time made the situation awkward. She told me to get over myself and that I should know exactly what she meant. Mary said that I made a big deal of what was supposed to be a joke and made it awkward for everyone. She said calling someone work husband is a normal thing and just means that she knows me intimately like a spouse would. She said that because we spend so much time traveling together, she knows all the intimate details of how I behave outside work. I stopped her and told her that I felt offended by the term work husband because I have a wife and I do not want people to use that term to describe our relationship. I told her that she would not understand as she is single, but as a married man, I really do not want anyone to describe me as a husband in any capacity. She said that I am again misinterpreting what she was saying. She felt that as we have known each other more time than I have been married, she knows me more intimately than even my wife. I have no idea why she feels that way, and I also behave like her husband when we travel together. She went on about how we go out to dinners together after work, how I always insist on having breakfast together in morning, to plan our actions of the day, and I walk around in my underwear, referring to my gym shorts, around her in mornings. She also talked about how we spend hours talking to each other during road trips and how I am the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. She said that I am the definition of work husband, and I am just in denial. I was a bit angry at this point. I told her that I do all that because I consider her my friend and she is delusional if she feels she knows me more intimately than my wife. I told her I do not want to hear that term again and it is extremely disrespectful to my marriage. Only one woman gets to call me her husband and that is my wife. Moreover, if my actions are giving her such ideas, maybe we need to stop being friends. She became apologetic afterwards and told me that she did not mean to disrespect my wife, and it was not her intention. She apologized to me and told me to just let it go. She said that she loves traveling with me and she does not want anything to change between us. She again said that I am misinterpreting her statement and just wants to move on. She came to hug me again, but I just told her it was okay and stepped back. I also talked to my wife about the incident that night. As expected, my wife was angry at Mary and told me that she hates the term work husband. She asked me if Mary has ever flirted with me during our trips or has a crush on me. I truthfully told her that I really have not felt that way and she may have just said that because she was a bit drunk and is now being stubborn about it. My wife said that she feels a bit uncomfortable about Mary now and says that it's strike one for Mary and I need to try and put more distance between us while traveling. If she ever repeat the same behavior again, I should report her to HR. I promised my wife that I would try to reduce my interactions with Mary outside work hours and be more guarded around her. Update 2. After my last post, my wife and I were no longer comfortable with Mary's behavior. Although a part of me thought I was overreacting and that it was just part of Mary's personality, I felt the need to protect myself. I requested a meeting with my manager and HR to document my side of the story. I wrote down everything and told them about the incident at the party, as well as Mary coming into my office and the comments she made. I made it clear that while I did not want them to take action against her, I wanted to emphasize that her behavior made me uncomfortable, especially her comments about knowing me better than my wife and remarks about my shorts. My manager had already heard about the incident at the happy hour, as everyone in the office was talking about it. He told me he would try to shake up the travel schedule to minimize our travel together. The issue was that only 4 people in our company generally work on off-site audits, and the other 2 co-workers did not want to split up because they claimed they worked well together. As a result, I continued traveling with Mary for the next couple of weeks, but it was awkward, and I kept my distance. My manager then called Mary and me to his office and informed us that he was planning to train a new auditor, Carolina, 26F, and set up a schedule where she would travel with me for 1 week and then with Mary the following week. We were asked to train her. I liked this arrangement because it meant I no longer had to travel with Mary. Carolina turned out to be a great travel buddy, and I made sure not to get too comfortable with her. I always dressed professionally when we went for breakfasts, avoided late-night drinks, and maintained healthy boundaries. Things were great until last week. Last Tuesday, I could feel everyone staring at me when I entered the office, and I was immediately called to a meeting with my manager and HR. HR asked if I had anything to report regarding Carolina and if she had made any advances toward me during our work trips. I told them no, that Carolina had been very professional the entire time. I asked why I was being interrogated, and they told me they couldn't disclose any further details, but that Carolina was being investigated by HR for inappropriate conduct. I left the meeting, and Mary came to my office, asking what had happened. She mentioned that she was also told Carolina would no longer be traveling with us and that we were asked to travel together again. I told her I had no idea what was going on. I messaged Carolina to see if she was okay and if she needed to talk. She asked if she could come to my office, and I agreed. Carolina explained that someone anonymously sent messages to her boyfriend, posing as someone from the office over the weekend. The message included screenshots of Carolina sending some inappropriate pictures she had taken in her hotel rooms during our travels, and flirtatious messages. This person claimed to her boyfriend that Carolina was trying to cheat with him at work, and he was just trying to warn them. Her boyfriend went crazy after seeing the pictures, ghosted her, and then sent the messages to HR as revenge. Carolina was in tears, telling me that she had only taken those pictures for her boyfriend and had no idea how they got leaked or how those messages even existed. Her boyfriend was furious because he also received the exact pictures from Carolina and knew they weren't fake. I consoled Carolina, but she's in deep trouble, as our workplace takes such things very seriously, because we work on government contracts, and I'm sure everyone suspects I'm the anonymous messenger. I was told that the matter would be investigated, and Mary and I would be working together on the project again. My manager said there was nothing he could do and also mentioned that they might go through my emails and messages on my company phone as part of the investigation into Carolina. Mary seems very happy about the whole situation and keeps talking about how excited she is to revisit the restaurants and bars we used to frequent during off-site trips. She also keeps referring to Carolina as that pervert. The whole thing is just crazy. My wife, of course, believes that I would never do anything inappropriate with Carolina and that I wasn't the anonymous messenger. However, her conspiracy theory is that Mary, who was also traveling with Carolina, may have unlocked her phone and accessed the photos. It feels far-fetched, but the fact is, I'm not thrilled about traveling with Mary again. I don't think I have any other recourse to get off this project except leaving the job, which isn't possible at this time. I know many of you work in HR, and I would appreciate any advice on what I can do next.